So welcome everyone to the Women in Deep Foundation webinar series, uh, Converting Crisis into Opportunity, Different Perspectives. Today we have Dana Hecht with us. Thank you for joining us. And yes, so let me give a little introduction about Dana. And before that, I mean, usually Lucky is the one who starts and she would give introduction about myself. So let me just do that. My name is Giselle Pasalacqua. I'm a New York Geotechnical Department Manager at ACOM. I'm also a member of the Women in Deep Foundation Committee. And I would like to thank the entire committee and also the DFI, uh, everybody from DFI who supports here. Oh, Lucky? We see you, but we don't hear you. Okay, so just thank everybody for making this webinar possible, especially Lucky, Karen, Joanna, and Sayantani, who are always helping us to put these presentations together. So thank you, and thank you everyone for joining us in this rainy, stormy day. I hope everybody is safe at home. And yeah, let me give a little introduction about Dana Hecht. So I'm really happy to be presenting our next speaker. I met Dana during the open house event for the WTS mentoring program. WTS stands for Women in Transportation Seminar, and that happened back in February this year. She is the co-chair of the WTS mentoring program, and she was the first person I met in the room, and we instantly connected. I think we had somebody that we know in common. I think it was your son-in-law. He worked with me at ACOM.
And they broke up since, but I think that they might be talking again. My daughter's
Oh,
boyfriend.
okay.
He's only 20,
Yeah.
so not looking to marry her off yet.
Yeah, but that's how we met. That was the first conversation I remember. So it was very nice. She had such a great energy, and the program is really amazing. And I was very excited about it, even though I end up not applying for the program because I was going through some changes in my career. I didn't feel like I was ready to commit, but I would I would deeply recommend anybody to apply for the program. And I'm just glad that I was there to meet her and meet many other amazing women. And from there, we kept in touch. I follow up by email. We kept communicating through emails, and now we are here. So thank you for accepting the invitation to be here today. And we're looking forward to hearing more about your successful trajectory. You are an inspiration to many women and even men in the industry with your achievements. And let me give just a brief introduction about Dana. So Dana graduated from Temple University with a Bachelor of Science in Civil and Construction Engineering Technology and is a certified project manager professional. Dana began her State of New Jersey public service at the New Jersey Department of Transportation and finished at New Jersey Transit after nearly 27 years in 2018. Dana has continued her career as public servant with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, currently serving in the role of Assistant Director in the Office of Major Capital Projects. Dana is currently a co-chair for the WTS Great New York Chapter Mentoring Committee. She is a member of the American Society of Highway Engineers Society South Jersey Chapter and the Project Management Institute. So with no further ado, Dana Hecht.
Okay, so I think I take controls. Thank you, Giselle, and we look forward to you joining the program, the WTS mentoring program in some capacity. Uh,
Definitely.
so I have to admit this is strange, speaking and not seeing the audience. usually when I have talks like these, because I think mentoring and confidence and all, it's great to have interactive conversation. So in the presentation itself, I've worked in, I guess, virtual interaction. At one point, we have a family feud style slide where we'll be looking at chats for answers, and then we have a few poll questions. If you have questions along the way, please feel free to use the chat. And you know, mentoring and building confidence, it's really near and dear to my heart. I've been part of official mentoring programs as a mentor, as a mentee, unofficial. I've had unofficial mentors throughout my entire career, still do. I'm an observer, so I'll get into that as well as we go through. Confidence, I'm going to be honest, confidence is not something that I was really comfortable with until the last couple years. And, you know, I'll talk about that as well as why it's important, the earlier that you are in your career, to learn how to be confident and learn that it's okay to be confident, and some strategies. There's a lot of information online. So I do use online, I take courses, I read books, but part of what's worked into this as well is my experience, besides things that I have taken from experts in the field, but also strategies and experiences that I've had. So that being said, I will move on to the next slide. Okay. I will try to, whoops. I hit something I shouldn't have hit. Got it. See, we practiced this, but I can't see the arrows. Okay. There we go. Well, why don't I? Okay. Ah, shoot. Escape. All right. So we are going to start with a poll. I think if you were paying attention, you probably saw I clicked one too many times. But so these stats, they're from the ASEE.org. I honestly forgot what it stands for, but if you Google it, it's Statistics with Engineers and Women in Engineering. So in 2018, if you there should be a poll number one: what percentage of undergraduate engineering degrees were awarded to women? So if you could select one of those. So I'm not sure how long we give it because this is new for me. Do we, yes, okay, so 57% at least were either paying attention or knew, but that is correct, 21.9%. So, but if you think about that, that's only 2 out of 10 people are women. So if we can go back to my slide, the next poll question is true or false? The enrollment of women in engineering had climbed from 16% in 1991 to over 20% in 2001, but by 2009 it had fallen again to 17%. Is that true or false? Correct. 83%, that's true. It was rising and then it fell again. And as you could see by the last poll, in 2018, you know, the degrees were not that much greater. So there was not a huge difference. And so my last question, the last poll, uh, I do not see the advanced arrows on here. All right, I'm going to put on my reading glasses. Ah, there we go. Reading glasses help. I knew my last question. I was just trying to find the arrow so we can advance more fluidly moving forward. So as it had been mentioned, I graduated. I don't know if the year was mentioned. I graduated in 1991. Truth be told, which you'll see when I get into my journey, it took me a couple extra years. So I started college in the 80s. So besides myself, in my engineering graduating class, how many other women do you think there were besides myself? 2, 6, or 9? That's our last poll question. And then after we get through these, I'll explain why I think that this is a good foundation to understand. Yeah, so it was 2. It's interesting that nobody thought that there were 10 of us, and that goes with the percentages that we talked about. But yes, I was one of 3. So the reason why, I'm going to put on my reading glasses again. So we highlight the right answer, and this just kind of gives an overview of how the degrees fall. You could see, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, just in general, bachelor's degrees, most are mechanical, and you have electrical and then civil. And then the next slide, whoops, shows by women, which is the 29%, but it gives the breakdown where most are environmental. So why am I going through all this? I'm going through all this because we're still the minority. I do see a lot of differences in meetings from when I first started to now, which is great. When I go to industry events where they're giving out scholarships, even when I was at NJDOT, I would go to a construction industry dinner, an annual construction industry dinner, and give our projections for project awards, and they always had scholarships. And I was starting to see definitely an increase in women and minorities. Many times it was majority getting the scholarships. So although we do see an increase, there's still not a lot of us at the table. That's what makes having confidence even that much more important. When you're walking into a room, you're part of a conversation, you're leading a meeting, and you might be the only woman or just a couple of women amongst many men, the way you project yourself and come across is very important. So that is why I started with this foundation.
Dana, just one quick question about the slide before. Is that from the United States or from the whole world, the statistics?
Whoops,
that you
I believe that was United States. And I can get you the source. Like I said, it's AS. I'm sure this looks funny, me trying to, I can't see I picked the wrong color background apparently for these advanced arrows. Okay. Yeah, I'll get you the link. I normally have the link. I don't know what happened. I like to show the source, but
Okay.
that's United States.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So confidence. There were many definitions, but I felt that this one really honed in on the purpose of what we're here to talk about. It's a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. This quote, so funny, TikTok. I saw a video on TikTok of a young woman that was really empowering, and this was a quote that she had said in that little vignette on TikTok. And I had sent that TikTok to my daughters, to a couple of my girlfriends, and right, this quote really resonated, and it's very true. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. You own it. So as much as you own it, you have the ability to work on and build on it. So that's something, it's even something I taught my girls always growing up when they would come and say, oh, and my mom taught me this person makes me feel like, and I remember my mother telling me, and I passed it down, No, you're allowing that individual to make you feel that way. Not that it's always pleasant or you know, but it's when you can take a step back and digest what you're hearing and either say, okay, maybe there's some truths in that and I need to work on that, or you know what, I feel strong in who I am, and that's okay that they see it that way. So that's always something good to remember. So that being said, it's really not round 3, but I didn't know how to change it. This is where the chat's going to come in. There's many more answers, but 6 that we're going to concentrate on here. So what is important for building confidence? So if you could use the chat, and I have provided the answers so that someone can let me know if somebody says that particular answer, I can hit the box. I also can play. I can do that. Oh, it didn't make a noise. Oh well. I was just going to do that while it was quiet because the other time I did it, you could hear the noise. So there's 6 particular things that we'll be focusing on. And again, building confidence. There's different strategies that work for different people. So this is pulled from my own experiences and from just things I've read along the way. So is somebody monitoring the chat that has this information that I sent? Because I don't hear anybody. All
Okay,
right,
Dana,
so,
this is Mary Ellen. Hi.
hi.
Thank you for being so patient while poor Lucky's having all this trouble with her internet connection. So I am monitoring the chat.
Okay. So
I'm
for
going
the
to
sake
send you the answers as they're coming in. So I think what you're asking is for everyone to chat through their suggestions of what is important for building confidence and send it through the chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to say them out loud or forward them to you so that you can look at them?
Oh, I think it'd be great if you say them out loud because there could be things that I don't have on here that, you know, definitely would be good for other people to hear what people think is important for building confidence because some of it is individual.
Okay, great. So the first one was experience.
Great.
And we did hear your sound on the X's.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Okay.
I
And
didn't hear them.
another one was practice.
Okay.
Another is more suggestions are self-affirmation.
Great.
Mentors.
Yes. Okay.
Fearless, being fearless.
There's mentoring. Being fearless. Okay. Being fearless could come into challenge yourself.
Okay.
Any others?
Those are the ones that have come through so far.
Okay, we'll give it another minute and then I could reveal. But right, those are all great. I didn't necessarily have those, but they all are very important for building confidence.
A couple more have come in. So being assertive.
Yes, I didn't have that, but definitely being assertive, not aggressive. But we have to be comfortable being assertive, and I think with confidence, that grows.
Okay. Another is attitude.
Having a good one or
Maybe they didn't specify, so maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Another was recognizing your abilities.
Okay, yep, that I have it at different, but I think it's the same. Know your value. So I think for the sake of time, I will reveal the other 3 I have. Use failure to your advantage. Now that is one that I did see the words when I was reading. I didn't like failure, so I put it in quotes, but I thought it was a great thing to talk off of. Focus on your strengths. So we'll discuss that. Many people think that you should really focus on building up your weaknesses. So there's a school of thought on that. And right, be bold. So I think you're having better luck with the cursor than me for some reason. So I'm ready to go to the next slide. Right. So use failure to your advantage. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. I love that. And that really fit in with what the quotes for failure. Success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Again, I don't like that word. So, you know, even in my personal life, things haven't always gone the way I mapped it out. You know, my white picket fence and the age that I was going to have my children. And are they failures or are they experiences that I grew from and I learned from? So that's why I put failure in quotes, because just because something didn't work out or something wasn't successful, to me, if you always can look within and pull and propel yourself beyond that and use it as a growing experience, it's not a failure then. It is part of successfully getting to that next step. So that that leads me into my journey. I started out at community college when I graduated high school. I stopped community college to Valley Park. So I'm sure my parents were very thrilled. And now that I'm a mother of a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old who have had their trials and tribulations in college, I really appreciate that they let me go on my journey. So ironically, you see two men in the Valley Parking, in the car clip art with Valley Parking. I couldn't find one with females. So just saying, still to this day, they didn't have an clip art with female Valley Parkers. So it was through Valley Parking and taking an assessment of and stock of what I want to do for my future. I realized I think I'm going to go back to college. So I went back to Brookdale Community College, which is in Monmouth County, New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey. And I went back for architecture. I transferred from Brookdale Community College to University of Arizona. That didn't go as planned for myself. I was there, I think, like 6 weeks. My father let me come home. My mother was never happy about that. And I lost another semester, and I landed at Temple University in the spring semester. And I went there as an architecture major, but it was there that I switched to civil and construction engineering technology. And honestly, even then, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do or why that was the right major for me. But the advisor that I spoke to understood me better than I did. So you could see that there were trials and tribulations along the way there, and it took me 6 years to graduate. That being said, we can go to the next slide. When I graduated, it was a recession. So I've actually spoken to some students that are graduating during COVID. I became an architecture major because I loved homes, and I envisioned myself running a large residential building company, doing project management for a large residential builder. That didn't pan out in 1991 because of the recession. So I ended up working in a 1-hour film. And I'm thinking, wow, 6 years, I graduate with my engineering degree, and I'm doing what I could have done. So I had to just keep sending out resumes. Also, when I was in college on breaks, I worked, there's a very large contractor in New Jersey called George Harms Construction. I was a runner for George Harms Construction for 3 different breaks, but never thinking that I was ever going to work with George Harms Construction again once I graduated, because I had my dream. I knew what I was going to do. I was going to work for a residential builder. So it became now where I'm just sending out resumes. And I sent out a resume in the summer of 1991, November 1991. I got called by New Jersey Department of Transportation, who hired me. Still never thinking I was going to stay there. never really understanding the passion that I had for public service, for highways and bridges. So my message to people that are graduating now is you might not understand it, but sometimes you land where you're supposed to land, because I have never looked back going there. So in 2018, my husband's job transferred from New Jersey, Central Jersey to Long Island. And so I left and I went to NJ Transit. I went there because Newark I could commute there from Long Island. That did not quite work out necessarily the way I wanted. And then this opportunity occurred at the Port Authority, which was actually an easier commute for me. So that's how I landed in major capital programs at the Port Authority. And I started out with Path to Newark Extension. And now I lead the Port Authority Bus Terminal Replacement Program. What I do now is vastly different than what I did at NJDOT. At NJDOT, I am proud to say that I did break a glass ceiling. When I left, I was the director of project management. So the portfolio of projects from planning through construction were under me. It was about 600 projects, and I was responsible for setting the award goals for each year and working with the consultant communities, contracting communities, and obviously my teams to deliver on those and to deliver improvements to the public. So at my age, I'm now starting something very new, something I never did. I was very comfortable leading large programs, not necessarily so comfortable leading a large program that is a project specific. So it doesn't matter where you are in your career, you're always going to have your peaks and valleys of confidence. But as long as your foundation, if you have belief in yourself, you can do it. And I love that at the age of 53, I'm still rounding out my resume. I bring with me the experience and successes that I've had to a different type of leadership role and technical role that I ever had. So having the foundation of confidence and belief in myself, but the excitement to also take on something new has thus far proved somewhat successful. I got a promotion 6 months after being there. I was hired as a program director and I got promoted to assistant director. So that's my journey. It was definitely a long, windy road. I'm going to be honest, when I started, I thought it was going to be straight. So one of the things that I've realized that failure, that word in quotes, change. I think that the more you can adapt to change, the more successful you can be. The more you learn how to be comfortable with change and being able to pivot, that more that feeds into your confidence, the more you're able to transition. So again, I don't like the word failure. It depends on what you do with those circumstances that don't necessarily play out the way you thought. They're part of the journey and part of getting you to where your next step is supposed to be. So, okay, the next slide. Challenge yourself, right? I think that was something that somebody had said, or be fearless. There you go. If you climb that, you're pretty fearless. If you don't challenge yourself, you'll never realize what you become. And that it's uncomfortable, but it's true. And it doesn't have to be big things. It could be little things. But when you're complacent and you don't have the confidence to push yourself, then your potential will never be realized. So this next picture, this next slide, this is my mom and I. This is a few months before I had to say goodbye to her. I got an award, so she was thankfully there with me. It was a government service award. But it was stories that she started telling me when I was an adult. And I never realized that she was my greatest role model until I really started applying context to her life and now my life. I was a single mother at the time and, full-time working mother, professional, 2 daughters. And my mom stopped working. I was the youngest of 3 children. I have 2 older brothers, and they were 5 and 8 years older than me. So my mom went back to work part-time when I was 6 so that she could be home, and then went back to work full-time when I was 10, because back then it was okay to come in at 10 with a key. You know, they got a dog. But my mom was a career woman. She was an executive, and this was bad. I just thought that was normal. She was very independent. So she told me a story one day, and this relates back to challenge yourself. So my oldest brother was born in 1960. I love this story. And they lived in a high rise in Brooklyn. So my dad, back in 1960, told my mother that he did not want her going out with the baby. She was not to go out when he was at work by herself. And I'm guessing that this was probably not really uncommon in 1960. And the car was parked in a garage in the basement. There's a basement garage in the high rise. So she brought my brother down in his carrier. Back then, you just put the cradle or whatever it was on the back seat. You didn't strap it in or anything. And she closed the door, and she realized that she locked the keys in the car. So they didn't have cell phones back then. She's in a basement garage with this baby that's a few months old. My dad had told her she wasn't supposed to go anywhere. And she noticed a little opening in the window, and she was able to slide her arm down, and she said it was like this big, and she was able to squeeze and get the keys, and she got in the car and she went anyway, and she never told my dad. And she ended up telling him when I was there. I think I probably was in my 40s. I don't think it was that long ago. He didn't find it as humorous, but that story really resonated with me given the time frame and given the context. And like I said, I never knew that a strong, independent woman just wasn't the thing back then. And that story has always, since I've heard it, has inspired me. And I felt like my mother challenged herself at a time that she didn't have people that paved the way, right? I've had people that have paved the way for me, people like my mother. It wasn't our industry. But so again, in context, when I reflected back, I realized how much of her I have in me. So challenge yourself. And so the next slide, please. Thanks. How can you do that? And it could be big or small. Volunteer for special assignments. I always did that throughout my career. It introduces you to new people. It expands your knowledge base. It builds your confidence. If you're uncomfortable doing a presentation, challenge yourself to do a presentation. I've read this and I've heard this a lot lately. A lot of times women in particular, will see a position and go, oh, and I've done it myself. I shouldn't apply for that. I don't have the experience. I haven't worked specifically in that, but men will apply for that position. So challenge yourself next time you see a position you're interested in and you start questioning, should I really go for it? Go for it. What's the worst that can happen? Become an officer of a professional organization. Again, that hones a lot of skills. So a very quick story about presentation. I had just moved over to project management. I was with the department, I think I was actually there 13 years already, but I had not worked with the consulting industry in the area. I worked in planning for a few years and then in funding. So in funding, I got to learn the whole department, and I worked with people throughout the entire department, but I didn't work with people outside the department except for MPOs. I didn't work with consultants. So I had just moved over to project management. I was assistant to the director, and the commissioner at the time was implementing a new initiative. So he was slated to speak at an industry dinner, and people pay for FaceTime when a commissioner is going to speak at a dinner. And it was a couple days before, and he couldn't do it. And it rolled down to me. So it didn't go to the assistant commissioner, it didn't go to the director, it went to me, someone who never did a big presentation like that, someone that nobody knew when people were paying to see the commissioner. So I did not sleep that night. Thankfully, I had a friend that was a manager in the division that was like a mentor to me. He lives in South Jersey. This presentation was up in North Jersey. He came with me for moral support. And to break the ice, I got a picture of our commissioner and I printed it out and I cut it and I put it on a stick and I cut out the eyes. And when I had to go up and do the presentation, I started out with that and I said, I understand that you were hoping to see Jack Latier, so I'm giving you Jack Latier. And that broke the ice. It was still a very unnerving experience for me because it was my first presentation and it was almost like an out-of-body experience. But for people I work with, the consultants that were there that night, they still talk about this person that they had no idea and standing there and break the ice. So doing things like that and taking yourself out of your comfort zone, but doing something to break up the tension, the stress, doing something a first time to get it out of the way can really help with building your confidence. Okay, next slide. Are men really better than women? So my answer is going to surprise you. Yes, but not in the way that you think. It comes down to, again, confidence. Men are definitely better with confidence. And this is advice that we give in the mentoring program. It was advice when I went back to Temple Engineering to speak to young women, up and coming engineers. Start early with strategies on how to be confident, exuding confidence, and take interviewing classes. So back to the earlier slides of the statistics of how many women are still in our industry or in college for degrees for our industry, but we see it ourselves. I don't believe that men still are getting positions or management positions over women because they're better. I believe that they're better at talking, being comfortable talking about their accomplishments, being able to relay successes. Again, going for a job that might be a little bit out of their reach, but being able to confidently speak to what they bring to the table. So that I do believe that men are better than women. And so for me, it was a man. It was an individual that runs an authority on the Jersey side who I'm friends with. And it was a couple years ago, and I was doubting myself and doubting where I was with certain things. And he said to me, "You have a lot of successes, and you should have no problem saying that." And it really made me sit back and think. And it resonated with me. And yeah, why can't I? You don't have to be cocky. You could be proud. Why can't I be proud that I was the first and only woman director of project management? That under my leadership with my teams, we delivered a record capital program. And we did that in a year where there was a trust fund, a state funding shutdown, New Jersey Transportation Trust Fund. Why can't I be proud of the mentoring program that I helped to put in place for NJDOT, for all the connections that I have made? So I have been working on that since he said that to me. And that's really where this even comes from. And just in, again, reading and taking courses and listening to other women, this is where we really need to help each other, to build each other up. And I believe that this is very important on how we will start seeing more of us in the positions that we're looking to see ourselves in. So the next, know your worth. I just think these are great quotes. I'll give you a second to read them. Right, just the Maya Angelou quote. Be proud of who you are and don't try to conform to what you think that somebody else is looking for, because that's not confidence. And if you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, that doesn't work. So, and let me tell you, I've been told I'm unique, or, you know, that my husband tells me I'm special. I own that. I own bringing something to the table that maybe that others don't bring to the table. We all have that within us. Embrace that. Don't try to fit into what you think that somebody else is looking for. And that almost plays into strengths or weaknesses. And right, if you do not require validation, if you do not seek validation, you are fierce, and it will come through when you're in a meeting, you're leading a situation, you're part of a team trying to accomplish the task at hand. So the next slide, please. Things to do. Again, it goes back to the confidence and being comfortable. Practice saying it. Look in a mirror. I actually, Friday I took off. I needed a day to unwind and to chill. It's also actually good to recognize that in yourself when you need a down day. So I took a day off. We were supposed to go kayaking, but here it was pouring. And I ended up watching a rom-com in bed, which was actually pretty awesome. But she was a softball player and she got cut from the Olympics. But there was a scene on her mirror. She had all these Post-its with affirmations, and she was looking in the mirror saying it. And I thought that was really great. But practice looking at yourself in the mirror and saying something positive about yourself and get comfortable doing that. Write down your accomplishments so that you can see them and own them. And probably as you're writing them down, because then if maybe you're more comfortable writing them down and not spouting them out to people at first. And you should never spout them out, but you should be comfortable being able to say them. But if you're not comfortable saying them, write them down, because you know what? I bet you will come up with more than you even realized. You're probably much more accomplished. And it's not just professional, it's personal. Write down your personal accomplishments along with your professional accomplishments. Again, I say take an interview class, because I think that's where, even if it's not for the interview, but that's where you can learn how you can phrase things where you're not feeling like you're being cocky, or that you can get comfortable again with some guidance on how to present yourself confidently without appearing overconfident. Read a daily affirmation. It's so easy. Like I have a pad on my desk that has a quote. I send quotes every once in a while to my teams. We watch TED Talks. But even if you just search on the internet, these quotes come up. They're very easy to find, and for me, they help. They're especially in a time right now where not everything is so positive. These are really helpful to me. Surround yourself with positive people. That's very important. It's difficult to stay positive and to look positive when you're not surrounding yourself with positive people. That being said, I wanted to say it's very important also with confidence and with growing to learn how to accept constructive criticism. Constructive criticism is provided to allow you to grow and to help you with growth. So surround yourself with positive people that can positively provide you feedback for your benefit, and do not settle. So next slide. Be bold. Wear something that makes you feel good if you're going to go into a meeting. So for me, when I started working on the project management side, and I was walking into a room full of men mostly, I felt like stature gave me confidence, and that's when I started wearing heels. Maxine Hill of VHB now, she told me if she goes to a meeting or to an event, she wears red. That being said, she also told me that, she worked out in the field a lot, and she's shorter, and she embraced her lack of height in her work boots. So it's wear something, do something that gives you the confidence to put your shoulders back, to keep your head up high, and be bold. So, for me, like I said, walking into a room with some stature made me feel good, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It's a feeling. It's a feeling that when you walk in, people can say, there is a confident, fierce woman. So, okay, next slide. I see I'm it's getting a little late. I want to leave time for questions, so I will get through these slides. Mentoring was another thing that's very important. Very important at this, I believe, at this time too, during COVID. This is all ties back to COVID, and how we came to this subject as well is during the WTS mentoring program, and we were talking to the group of mentees. There's 13 pairs. So Maxine, who's my co-chair, and I, we reached out to the mentees because everything is virtual this year. It's a little different, and we wanted to make sure that they were comfortable getting their relationship started. And we kind of heard a message about the world is passing them by, the opportunities that they thought were going to exist by bettering themselves and making themselves more promotable. And the point was, no, the world's not passing you by. This is a situation that everybody is in. But not everybody is taking this opportunity to better themselves and grow themselves. So this is your opportunity to do that and put yourself in a better position. So get a mentor. You don't have to have a mentor to observe others. I actually observed two people in my previous job that ultimately became commissioners of NJDOT. They were career employees. That's unusual. It's usually political appointees. These two people actually were career employees that became commissioners. I loved their public speaking skills. They were very conversational. That's what I was striving to get to after my out-of-body experience of after memorizing, and when I didn't remember exactly what. I'm like, oh, they talk, they speak, they're conversational. I observed them. They never knew it. Be a mentor also. Again, have the confidence to recognize that you have something to offer as well, regardless of what your experience level. So next slide. I loved a couple of these quotes. You do need mentors, but in the end, you really just need to believe in yourself. So I don't like you really just need to. I believe you do need mentors, and you need to believe in yourself. And then the Steven Spielberg quote is awesome. Mentoring someone is not creating them in your own image. When you're being mentored, it's not to become that other person, but it's providing the opportunity to yourself as the mentee and providing the opportunity as the mentor for someone to create themselves of who they want to be and constantly evolve. And I actually, I got a mentor again. I had a mentor when I left NJDOT. I menteed a couple of people, and I realized never can stop learning and growing. And because we're getting comfortable in the virtual world, I reestablished that mentoring relationship. So I still have a mentor. And he is a very supportive person who's willing to share knowledge and experience. He's very visionary, which I like. So these quotes resonated for me because I think there's very important points in them. And as a mentee and a mentor, it's give and take. In both relationships, you get something out of it when it's the right relationship. One thing that's important to remember about a mentoring relationship, if it's not right, it's okay to amicably move on and find someone that works for you in either capacity. Next slide, please. Mentoring and confidence, they go hand in hand. You have to have the confidence to ask someone to be your mentor. Then that helps you gaining having that relationship and learning from that individual helps to build your confidence. And so it is cyclical, and right in the center of all of that is you. And for the sake of time, we'll move on. So here's the last poll question. Should we focus on strengths or weaknesses? I don't know if we have time for the poll, so I can just, okay. I know I was always brought up to believe that what we focus on was obviously one of these, but it wasn't what I thought. Yep, 61% strengths. So I'll explain that a little bit. Doesn't mean that let's see, whoops. We could go back to the slide because I had to hit something. And if you could hit next, we'll just bring up strengths. And then if you could hit that one more time. Strength Finders. This is a book that we gave out to the mentors. I've given it to people on my team. I gave it to managers at DOT. I've done it myself. I've sent this to many people. It's a very short book with a computer assessment, and it's about building on your strengths. And they give a really good story about Rudy, the movie Rudy, where he was at Notre Dame. And he had all the passion and desire, but he just did not have the raw talent. So no matter how much time and effort he put into being a football player, that passion and was not going to make him a great football player. So that's a quick premise. That being said, one of my weaknesses is I do not have a poker face. That does not mean that I should just go, oh, that's a weakness and I don't work on it. Because I know I still, to this day, I've gotten much better. But so it doesn't mean that you ignore your weaknesses and don't try and fix what you can, but where you're going to put your energies are on your strengths, because that's where you're going to get the most out of. And that's where you're going to build your confidence, because you're going to see successes more readily. So the last slide before we get to questions is why now? So why? Because our industry, infrastructure, it is always relied upon to stimulate the economy. And maybe we can't see that at the moment, but I put this from 2009, the ARA Recovery Act. I was very involved in that at NJDOT, all the projects that we put out with all the money that we got, the federal dollars. You hear it in the news all the time that there's a recognition that we need this. So we don't know when it's coming, but I can assure you it's going to come. Again, infrastructure is a sure way to stimulate the economy. So you use this time now to professionally and personally grow and position yourself to be ready to answer the call. So this is a topic that I love, and I love what we do for infrastructure. I love that we get to bring improvements to the public, economic benefits, safety, quality of life. I love being able to resolve problems and make things happen, and being part of exciting projects, or even actually paving projects, right? Because if someone's driving to work and they're driving in a pothole every day, filling a pothole is quality of life and safety for somebody. So it doesn't matter how small or big, we make a difference. But this topic as well is really near and dear to my heart. So I really appreciate the time. I really could have gone on even more. I have a lot more examples, but trying to fit it all in. So that being said, I thank you very much. And I will open it up if there's any questions.
Thank you very much.
There's a thank you slide at the end.
Thank you very much, Dana. That was really.
Oh, takeaways. This was really important. I'm sorry. One more slide. Takeaways. Promote yourself. It's okay. No boundaries. Sometimes the road does meander. Never too old to learn or grow. Mentor and be mentored. And the last one, very important. Be confident and know your worth. Okay, now's the thank you slide. Those are two of my favorite pictures. I love being out in the field.
All right, thank you, Dana. I really appreciate it. I think it was a great presentation. I would definitely be looking for a mentor once we're done here. I mean, I do have mentors inside, my company, but I think it's important to look for, mentors outside of your company and even maybe outside of your discipline. So, yeah, thank you very much. And do we have any questions in the chat? Mary Ellen?
So hi, Giselle. Hi, Dana. It was great. There aren't any questions in the chat, but there's lots of nice comments and people supporting you and saying that you did a great presentation. It was fantastic, and great testimonials, great points. There was one question that Lucky had sent in before. Unfortunately, she's still stuck in a storm in New Jersey, but she would just ask if you could can you share a little bit on the WTS mentoring program, please?
Yeah, so this is my first year with the program because living in New Jersey, I didn't really have access. But I know WTS and Whole does great things, and I was really excited when they asked me to co-chair the mentoring program. And I observed a couple of things last year. I was on a panel last year. So what it is you have pairs. Typically, they were having 10 pairs. This year, we have 13 pairs. You go through an application process, and it's usually looking for 5 to 7 years of experience, but we have taken people with less and taken people with more. The pairs meet, they set up that schedule, but we ask to acknowledge that you're going to commit a couple hours a month to that, and then we meet once a month. So typically the meetings were in person and you would have a meal. This year we're doing it virtually. So we've had to get creative, Maxine and I, but it's really been wonderful. It's made us think outside the box. Confidence is something that we are focusing on in that program because it's actually something I talked to Maxine about before we got the applications. And once we got the applications, that was really a theme that we started seeing. That was part of what some of the young women were looking to get out of this was confidence for different things. You know, confidence means different things to people. They're looking for confidence for different reasons, but confidence was an overarching theme. So that's something that we're focusing on as well. We did have a speaker and they gave some points. So there's an assignment now that they have to take one initiative and work with their mentor to apply that and work on that the one that they choose. They give each mentee gives a presentation at the end of the year. That's part of the program. And this year we also did do Strength Finders. We gave that book out. So the program as a whole, it's really great because it has one-on-one, but then it also has a large group where you get the benefit of hearing from all the mentees and mentors.
Oh, that's great. That sounds like a terrific program. I love that it's structured and flexible.
Exactly.
Kind of all at the same time, which is great. So Giselle, I popped a couple of questions over to you. I think we probably have time for one more.
Okay. So we had a few questions that we put together, our committee. So I'm going to ask you one question. It's hard to choose one, but let me see. What is the most important piece of advice you received early on your career, and any piece of advice you received more recently?
So the important piece of advice recently was definitely the male head of the agency telling me that you have successes and accomplishments and you should be able to own that and say it. I carry that with me. I work on that and I try to instill that in people at a much younger age than when I really started getting comfortable with it. Early on, so I did do another thing I didn't get to cover, which I really think is important, was doing a 360. So if you don't know what a 360 degree, we were going to actually do that in the mentoring program this year, but we felt that that would have been a little hard to organize with everything that was going on. So you get feedback, you find an assessment, it's the same assessment, and you send it to people that are your peers, people that are directly above you, and if you have people that report up or that are positions below you. So it's literally a 360 assessment. So I had done that, and probably it was collective feedback about my emotions and my lack of being able to contain my face. And still something, again, I work on. So, right, being able to manage my emotions was something I would hear early on. I didn't understand it as much as when I got a little older and understood more about that. So that would be the two main things. When I was younger, my emotions, my ability to control that, and then definitely owning your successes and knowing your value.
All right, sounds good. Do we have time for another question, Mariella?
Well, now we're eager for another question. So we'll do one last question and then we'll close. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So, what roles did your mentor play in your life, and how many mentors do you have?
Wow. So I had, I was in an official NJDOT program called succession planning. They no longer have it. You had to apply and be accepted. So I had two different mentors there. One mentor I specifically chose because he wasn't like me at all. So that was really interesting to get perspective from somebody that he was much more even keeled, and I really respected. He was very technical, but he really knew how to bring people together. So that was something that I recognized as being very important. And my other mentor actually was the one that ultimately became commissioner. He's a very outside the box thinker, a very a very dynamic speaker, but he was so solution oriented and outside the box thinker. So I think each mentor, and then I had unofficial mentors, and my most recent official mentor, who what he does, he's a very visionary person that's effective. He had a vision, he was transformative, yet doing it within a way that values his team. He understands the worth of those that work for him. So that is somebody that I really admire. It's something that I think I was able to start doing as director. I didn't have the time to finish everything, and I really admire what he did with a really large organization of being able to transform it while being cognizant and being team oriented. And that's what I try and do regardless of who I'm working with.
Right. Thank you very much, Dana, once again. Thank you, everyone, for attending the webinar. And our next webinar speaker will be Jennifer Kess. She's a Senior Vice President, Capital Program, New York City Economic Development Corporation. The topic will be sustainability and equity in capital construction. And we're also having another speaker. Is that right, Mariella? Amy Hendricks. She's an Executive Director and Chief Curator from the Museum of the Contemporary African Diaspora and Arts. She will be doing a cookout show. That's exciting.
Oh, wow.
All right, so stay tuned, August 18. Okay, make sure you register in the website. And thank you again. And please stay safe, everyone.
Stay safe. Thank you, everybody. And thank you
Dana.
for inviting me.
Sure, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.